Jennifer Carter, the first woman to lead an expedition to the wreck. What led you to diving the Titanic? I've always been fascinated with Titanic, and in my book I talk about meeting one of the survivors and was lucky to be next to her at a dinner hosted by Charles Sachs on the Queen Mary. This only led to the fuel for me to pursue diving. She said we were involved in Titanic. I saw a psychic years later with my mother, and she spun a globe on the table and kept pointing to a spot on the ocean and countries I'd visit in later years, which I did. But the spot in the ocean would be the pivotal point. I worked on many films about the ocean. I met Ralph White when I got my diving certificate, and we became involved not only in research but also in the Titanic. We ended up in Scotland with Emery Christoph in pursuit of the Loch Ness Monster, where I also met Bob Ballard, who was already hoping to discover the Titanic, and held many discussions. I later worked with Ballard on a number of projects which finally brought me to the wreck years later, but certainly predicted when I was 18 after my father died and the prediction from the psychic. Although in reality the view of the wreck is limited to the sublights and viewports, what was your immediate reaction seeing her for the first time? Oh, it's truly awe-inspiring, and I was fortunate enough to have photographed the propeller of the Titanic with the ROV Robin, and also from the Nautil, which in previous expeditions was relatively unknown. Titanic is said to have a profound effect on those fortunate to dive her. Were you among those affected by seeing her? And has it made you feel more in touch with your research, or did it strike on a personal level? Edwina Mackenzie spoke of the sounds of people lost from the sinking, which when we arrived at the scene, although caused by the ship and the waves, there came sounds similar to the screams. It affected me entirely, and yes, I was moved. What else brought it home was seeing the artifacts themselves, more so seeing the effects from someone who was actually there. How did you mentally prepare yourself for the descent and final destination on the sea floor? The crew goes over every detail of what can go wrong and state that if caught on the bottom, you would not survive. Rescue would not be available, as you would have 48 to 72 hours of air. You're so far from the coast, a helicopter can't reach you. Are you willing to take the risk? I'm a risk-taking person, always have been, and this is what I wanted to do. If you're going to go, what better way? But it is truly important enough to risk. You have a restriction of food and water before you dive, so you emerge from the dive dehydrated.